This is a post from Israeli activist Andrei X. I was illegally detained by the Israeli army with 4 other journalists. Here's what happened. On October 8th, 2024, at approximately 1 p.m., a car with 5 journalists, an American journalist, a Palestinian journalist, a Russian-Israeli journalist, a Canadian-Israeli videographer, and an Israeli photographer, was stopped at a checkpoint in the northern West Bank. The checkpoint separates areas C and B. All the journalists are allowed to be on both sides by Israeli occupation law. They were held for an hour and a half in their car, while the IOF collected their documents. The IOF searched the car, going through personal items. The photographer later discovered that her underwear was removed from her bag, placed on top of their belongings. The soldiers then illegally requested that the journalists hand in their phones. And when they refused, the soldiers pointed a gun at one of the journalists, hit him with their hands and the barrel of a gun, then dragged him out of the car and slammed him onto the concrete. When lying on the ground, they pointed 2 guns at his head. The rest of the journalists exited the car, and the military raided it, confiscating phones, cameras, and personal items. The journalists were told to sit in the sun in 35 degrees Celsius heat on the side of the road. After an hour, the Palestinian journalist began to feel faint and requested an ambulance be ordered. The soldiers refused and didn't let anyone move to the shade, shouting insults and Israeli nationalist slogans. After 2 hours, the soldiers handcuffed and blindfolded the journalists. The Israeli photographer had a panic attack and started throwing up, and after stating she was Israeli, was allowed to remain without a blindfold. The Palestinian journalist was left in the sun for 2 more hours. Then he was released. In the meantime, the other 4 journalists were stacked on top of each other into a military jeep and taken to a military base. There they were held blindfolded and handcuffed on the floor for 2 hours while being insulted and interrogated by the soldiers. The soldiers told the female